Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your relationship without your man's conscious effort so that you feel desired, taken care of, and special, even if your relationship feels completely hopeless. I'm Laura Doyle, and today I'm talking about how to stop raging for good. Forget about anger management. These are the embarrassing confessions of a former rageaholic who found a lasting cure in 5 steps. Spoiler alert, the former rageaholic is me. My guest, Shanique, felt lonely, criticized, and attacked all the time, and she was constantly walking on eggshells, just waiting for her husband to announce their divorce. After they had another very long conversation where she tried to explain, convince, and cajole her husband not to leave her, he went even further away, coming home only to sleep. But today her husband seeks her out and follows her around the house because he wants to be with her all the time. She's going to walk us through how she created a peaceful, passionate home. And then I'll be giving out the Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award, which people often want me to consider as an alternative to what I write and share about for relationships. Like I didn't try that. Forget about it. All that is coming up, but first, let's talk about how to stop raging for good. Maybe it wasn't my first rageaholic episode, but I have a cringeworthy memory of verbally ripping my sister up one side and down the other in anger when I was in college. Her crime? She locked the keys in my car. I could not contain the barrage of ugly words that came pouring out of me. I said choice things like, "How could you be so stupid? What were you thinking? Obviously you weren't. What an idiot you are." And I went on and on in a shrill voice right in front of my roommate. I could not stop myself from berating her. It gave me a release that seemed impossible to deny. It's hard to convey the utter horror of the bully that I was. Raging was a regular occurrence for me for over a decade. Managing that anger was impossible as far as I could tell. And like the Karens in those viral videos, I picked on unlucky store clerks, bank tellers, and customer service reps. But most of all, I raged at my husband, whose response was to suffer through my episodes by saying very little and escaping as soon as he could. I always felt tremendous shame and remorse afterward, but that didn't help me when the urge arose the next time, and the next, hundreds of times. But I no longer feel that urge. I haven't had a Godzilla-like episode in decades, and I don't miss them at all. The cure for my anger was a byproduct of my journey to fix another problem, my broken marriage. I'm not the only one. My clients and coaches also report that their anger subsided and they regained their dignity when they adopted these simple practices. So here's the first step. I learned how to say what I want without criticism or complaint. Another embarrassing, out-of-control anger incident happened when my husband took me to Hawaii before we were married. He thought it would be fun to go see a volcano. I was afraid that if I said that I wanted to go to the beach, it would cause a conflict and therefore separation. And I really wanted to be close. And that's what all of us angry women want deep down, by the way, to be close and connected. My solution was to be nice by ignoring what I wanted and not even telling him. There was just one problem. I couldn't quite keep it in. Just ignoring my own desires didn't work. They came out sideways and ugly in a temper tantrum. Now I know how to express my preference directly and beautifully. These days, I know that sucking it up and ignoring my own desires is a setup for an unpleasant outburst. Step number 2, I made myself happy. When I was angry, I was also miserable. I thought that was because of my situation and my husband and other things outside of me. Now I know that it's my job to make myself happy, and my happiness doesn't depend on anybody else. That's all me. I put myself on a happy plan of doing 3 pleasurable things a day, every single day, just to make myself feel good, just to make me smile. At first, it felt hard. I felt guilty. Suffering and complaining felt more familiar. Now I can tell right away if my happiness tank is low, and I know what to do. Stop, drop, and find some fun. I found it's hard to be angry when I'm ridiculously happy and grinning. Step 3, I asked myself how I felt and what I wanted. In the mad old days, I was focused on what was going on outside of me. One big distraction was focusing on what my husband hadn't done and what I thought he should be doing. Turns out it's impossible to take good care of myself when I'm focused on other people. And when I don't take good care of me, I get mad and tired and afraid. That's a dangerous combo for a rager like me. Today, I'm constantly turning my attention back to myself by asking myself these two magical questions. How do I feel? What do I want? How do I feel? What do I want? Tuning into, listening to, and honoring myself this way gives me an astonishing sense of calm and confidence. That's something that angry me didn't know anything about. Number 4, I practiced acting in faith when I felt incredibly afraid. Along with being an angry person, I was also a controlling person, which means I was a fearful person. Control is always about being afraid. Problem was, all that control was really hurting my marriage. When I developed my world-famous system for relinquishing inappropriate control of my husband, it included deciding to act in faith by trusting him, even when I felt afraid he was going to screw up the taxes and we'd end up with a big IRS bill, for example. The more I practiced letting go of the control, the more courageous I actually became. I was feeding my faith and starving my fear. The more courageous I became, the less the fear would mix with the anger and cause an explosion. And then, one glorious day, my faith became bigger than my fear, and there were no more explosions. Woohoo! Step 5, I let myself fall apart. One of the things I feared the most was dropping all the balls I had in the air. Most of them weren't even mine, but I imagined that I was keeping them in the air anyway. And my worst fear was falling apart and having everyone see how very small and scared I felt. How far over my head I really was. I didn't want to be vulnerable like that. But it turns out that was actually a great thing to do. When I finally fell apart and cried, shooting tears and snot out of my face, I thought my husband would be disgusted. Instead, he came closer. He thinks that side of me is beautiful. Who would have thought? At first, all of these things felt awkward and uncomfortable, and they seriously challenged my beliefs about the world and myself. And it's not to say that I never get angry. I get furious at some of the ridiculous relationship advice I hear, for example. But it's what I'd call clean anger, not rage. It's not dirtied by fear and resentment, and it doesn't drive me to lash out at loved ones or hapless store clerks. If I'm mad at someone I'm close to, I can look for the hurt underneath and lead with my vulnerability to preserve the connection. Anger management seems like the wrong term to me now. I'm not so much managing my anger as I am honoring myself. I'm happy to say that underneath that angry exterior was the real me, a soft, calm, and loving woman. If you identify with my anger issues, I hope you get that it's not just me, that you could also be free of the kind of anger you desperately want to manage and can't seem to do. That's what I see over and over for women who adopt these 5 steps. I'm confident that if you adopt the same practices, what would emerge for you would be just as beautiful and amazing. If you're wondering how to get started with fixing your relationship and making it shiny again, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your relationship up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes that wives make trying to fix their relationship that just make things worse when you download my free Adored Wife Roadmap. You can do that at getcherished.com. Go to getcherished.com now to get your roadmap in minutes. My guest, Shanit, felt lonely, criticized, and attacked all the time, and she was constantly walking on eggshells, just waiting for her husband to announce their divorce. After they had another very long conversation where she tried to explain, convince, and cajole her husband not to leave her, he went even farther away, coming home only to sleep. But today her husband seeks her out and follows her around the house, because he wants to be with her all the time. She's going to walk us through how she created that change. Shanique, welcome to the Empowered Wife Podcast. Thanks for being here today.
Hi. Thank you, Laura. I'm so honored to be here.
Great. Well, take us back to the bad old days. What was going on in your marriage?
So I remember telling my mom I have 2 kids, not 2 boys. I remember telling my mom I had three kids, my husband and my 2 boys. I thought I was the only one that cared, that I was the only grown up, that that he didn't care, that I was the only one carrying the responsibility of the family, of the boys, of the house, of the meals, everything. And it was so exhausting, so lonely. Yeah. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's painful to go back, isn't it?
And I remember being like miserable with my life, thinking, this is what marriage is? And I thought, if I get a divorce, it will be the same with the other, because with my past relationship, it was like honeymoon stage, and then again, like the horrible stage where I'm miserable. I'm there just, I don't know why I'm there. But yeah.
So you believe this was just the way relationships were, that it starts out exciting and fun, and then it just gets kind of miserable.
Yes.
So, and so you're lonely, and your husband wasn't. I mean, did you think it was his fault that you were the only one responsible?
Yes, I thought it was his fault before I knew better. Now, I thought it was his fault, that he didn't care, that why wasn't he making me happy? Yeah, we were married, so we were supposed to be one.
Yes,
you say this in every religion, like you're 2 and then you're 1. So why was I so miserable? And he was doing his life, like he didn't have kids, he was traveling, he was going out with friends, and I was staying home taking care of the kids. And we had my youngest had some medical issues, so I felt that I was so responsible for him. And anytime I missed the medicine because whatever, I got blamed that I was trying to kill him. But
wow. So he's very critical of you as a mother. And this is kind of sounds like a life or death situation almost.
Yeah.
So it was very heavy. So, and the marriage started to fall apart.
Yes, it started to fall apart. And I started to find ways to make me happy. I didn't know. I'm a yoga teacher before this, and I knew about taking time for myself, but I didn't know how. So I started researching about zero waste living, no plastic. So I started controlling everyone in the house not to use plastic, and I buy the groceries. So I bought whatever I wanted, and my husband loves snacking, so I changed his snacks so I could buy them in bulk, so no plastic. And he hated that. He's like, why are you buying my things? And I don't drink soda or Coke, but my husband loves that. And I thought, in a glass bottle, it's less waste. So I switched. He drank from aluminum bottles, the cans, and I switched to the glass one. And he's like, why are you, you don't even drink this. Why are you changing my Coke to a glass bottle? I don't like the taste. And it was the constant fighting of, I'm just trying to be helpful. I'm just trying to save the environment for our kids. Why don't you care? And I didn't understand that. My husband used to tell me, I cannot breathe in this house. You cannot let me be. I feel uncomfortable in the house. This is every day he used to say those things to me. And I didn't understand, like, why is he, I'm trying to make his life easier. I'm finding Cokes, on a bottle. So it's nicer for the environment. He's still having his snack.
You're just being a good person and a good wife and a good mom. And he doesn't seem to appreciate that at all.
Yeah. This is what I was thinking, like, where is this coming from? But every day. So then the complaint started coming of, maybe we should separate. maybe we should live apart. I'm not talking about divorce. This is what he said at the beginning. Let's live apart, and I have my house with my things, with the things I like. And you have your things, your house here with the kids and whatever you like. And you do whatever you like in your house, and I do my thing in my house. And I'm like, ouch. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's easier with me. Like, how can you manage on your own? I bet you're going to just go to your mom's. This is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I never said that, but this is what I was thinking. And then it started off, okay, let's get a divorce. Oof. I cannot live with you anymore. Let's get a divorce. And still, I didn't understand how, I thought being a good wife was a helpful wife.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So was there a moment when you said, okay, we can't go on like this?
Yes. And we started going to regular counseling therapy. And yeah, first it was couple therapy, and it was complaining, like 1 hour complaining. And I was just quiet because I don't really like to complain. Or I think I don't. Maybe I don't. And he complained, and I still didn't understand, like, why? Because he said, "You're so disrespectful. You're so controlling. You don't let me be. You don't let me breathe." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm just trying to be a good wife, to be helpful." You know? And so it didn't account to anything. The therapy at the last session, the therapist said. He said this to my husband. He said, decide if you want to be married or not. And I'm like, what?
Whoa. So
we stopped the therapy, and my husband said, you should go to therapy on your own. So I said, okay, I don't mind, whatever. So
you had no intention of working on these things that he was complaining about at that time, though, it sounds like.
No, I didn't understand what he was talking about. It was like different, like the book, Women are from Mars, and the men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Like I didn't it wasn't going in. I didn't understand what he was talking about. How can I be disrespectful if I'm helping him to be a better man? I know best. I have a PhD, I have all the studies, and he didn't even go to university.
You have a PhD, Janine? I didn't know.
No, it's a master's, not PhD.
A master's. Okay. Yeah. Okay, got it.
I have a master's. He didn't even go to university. I'm helping him. I know that I read all the parenting books. I read I love reading. So everything that interests me, I read. And I'm telling him.
You're much smarter than your husband, clearly.
Yeah.
So the therapist is saying, well, decide if you want to stay married or not. So this marriage is kind of on the precipice of a divorce.
Yes. And I remember my husband packing a bag. I was in the bath with the kids because I did all the bath times, Yes. And he was walking out the house, and I was running to the door, blocking the door, pulling on his clothes, crying, saying, don't leave me, please don't leave me. And then maybe he managed to open the door, because this happened like 2-3 times. He managed to open the door, and we live in a small apartment, or in the hallway, I'm pulling him on his clothes, please don't leave. And I'm barefoot on pajamas, going to the parking lot where the cars are. Please don't go. I'm crying, and I feel like so anxious inside that he's gonna leave, that my marriage is gonna fail, and I don't want that. I didn't want that.
Awful. It sounds like a really heartbreaking time. Mm-hmm. So what happened?
What happened? I searched online, controlling wife. I'm like, I don't know, let's find something. And I found a blog, your blog, Are You Controlling? And I started reading, and I'm like, wow, I am controlling. But I didn't understand how I was being controlling. I didn't understand that saying helpful things, helping him with his things, was being controlling. And so I started reading all your blogs. I'm like devouring everything, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that's enough with just the blogs,
Yes.
And no, it's worse. The threats of divorce are worse, and he's not coming home. He's just coming home when I'm asleep, I know he's out gambling or with friends or with his friends or with his mom. And I'm thinking maybe there's another woman. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you'd have question marks, right? Because he's not coming home very often.
Yeah. And I remember I'm calling him at 3 a.m. in the morning. Where are you? Like, I'm the mom. Come home. Where are you? Are you coming? And he's like, yes, I'm coming. And it's 4 in the morning and he's still not here. So,
So then you can't sleep either. You're probably just...
Yeah, I couldn't sleep.
Staying awake, waiting for him to come home.
Yeah, like the mother waiting for the kid to come home.
Yeah. Awful. But you had these blogs. You had a little awareness. So
I said, okay, let's buy the book.
Okay. A book, I know.
Because I'm always very. I know, like, I teach myself things. I don't,
Yeah.
So I said, okay, let's buy the book. Right. And I bought the book, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is me. This is my problem. This is what respect means to a man. I didn't understand that when I'm controlling, when I'm like telling him what to do, telling him what to eat, how to be, what to say, what not to say, I'm controlling him and I'm disrespecting him. I didn't know this.
No.
I thought I was just being helpful. And I grew up with that idea because my mom and my dad are still together, but my mom she's very controlling.
So you had a role model that was similar. So you did what you saw her doing.
Yeah, and they're together and they're happily together. I don't know how happy they are, but they're happy together. And I thought, I need to do what my mom does,
Yes, of course.
She controls everything.
Wow. Okay, but you got the book and that gave you some insights about what he'd been saying. What did you start doing differently?
And I got the book and it was like a veil had been lifted from my eyes. I'm like, whoa. Yeah. And I read the transformations of all the other women. I'm like, whoa, maybe this can work. So the first thing, so I'm going to counseling on my own. And I tell the therapist, I found this amazing book. I think I'm going to start doing it, like following the skills. And she's like, yeah, let me see. She doesn't want me to leave her, of course. She's like, let me see. So she starts reading it. And I'm not sure.
Okay.
And so while I'm reading your book, I'm realizing that most failed marriages, not most, but it's part of, like, it's my fault. It's my fault that my marriage was like this.
So before you thought it was just all him because he was like a child and he wouldn't come home and he complained too much.
And he always criticized me and he was always controlling me and he wasn't helping me.
So this is the first time you had an insight, like, maybe.
Yeah, I said, I realized I am the guilty one. I was the one that made the marriage fail this bad. So I'm crying because I'm feeling so miserable. Like, how could I be so, like, ignorant not to know that it was really my fault?
Painful.
It's painful.
Yeah. But you decided it was also empowering for you.
Yeah, because now I could change myself. I could change my brain patterns and what I was speaking to my husband.
Yes. So what did you start doing differently? We went to the therapist for a second. Your therapist was like, I don't know if you should do this.
So the break point happened when my husband kept complaining. And I said to him, come with me to the, or he said something like, let's go to therapy together with this woman. So maybe she can tell you what is wrong. Maybe she can explain to you what is happening. Why I cannot breathe in this house? So I said, yes, whatever, whatever to keep the marriage without a divorce. So we're there and he starts complaining. And I had already read your book like twice. And I said to him, you're right. It's all my fault. You're completely right. It's all my fault. And I'm crying, crying, feeling so miserable. And before my tears were of manipulation, don't leave me. But this is crying because I'm realizing I'm at fault here. And the therapist is saying, it's not all your fault. You're not a doormat. why are you saying the things you are saying? I'm like, I'm dismissing her because she's somewhere else, you know? Like, no, it's all my fault. The marriage is like this because I was controlling him. I was forcing him to do things he didn't want to. And I was treating him like my child.
Did your husband fall out of his chair, or
my husband didn't understand? Like, he thought I'm still trying to manipulate him. Like, he didn't understand. Like, and he kept on saying the things, you know, like about the Coke. It was the main thing, you know, the Coke.
The Coke,
and about the kids, that I didn't let him be a father, that I'm always controlling him, that I'm telling him, you know, you should do this with the kids. And I'm like, yes, you're right. It's all my fault. And I kept repeating and cried.
Wow, what a moment. So you were completely accountable right then. And even though the therapist didn't get it, and it sounds like your husband didn't totally get it either, you had changed. You were taking a different approach.
And I remember it was the Valentine's Day, almost 2 years ago, that day. And we come home and we're in the terrace, and I remember telling my husband, I apologize for being disrespectful for the past 10 years. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, when I tell you how to dress, when I tell you what to order, how to eat, what not to eat, how to treat the kids, all the list goes on. And it's like, I don't get it. I'm like, it was my fault. You know, I wasn't treating you like you deserved. And he was like, what?
Yeah. So you were getting, it wasn't a great response from him. You were hoping for a better response of it.
What I was hoping was to start anew, like for myself, like start a new chapter of my life. And I remember him telling me, I bet it's also my fault. I bet there's things that I need to change too.
Wait, so he became accountable after you became accountable?
Yeah. And I said to him, I don't know. Wow. Like, I'm trying to relinquish control. I said, I don't know. He's like asking me, what things should I change? I said, I don't know. What I know is that I need to change many things about myself, and I haven't been treating you like you deserve.
Wow. But all your problems were not solved at this point.
No, of course not.
But this is a big moment, though. Yeah. I get that. This was the big switch in you, really, like an on and off switch, right? Like completely changed.
And it was hard. I had a headache because I needed to change how I was speaking to him. I said so many things, so many controlling things, and like you shared in your book. Now I was just quiet, saying whatever you think. And he's asking me, what should I do about a business he was making? I said, I trust you, whatever you think.
Wow.
And, but
it was driving him a little crazy, probably, that you were.
Yes.
He didn't like that either.
Yeah, he didn't know what I was going on about.
So how did you stick to it then? Because you weren't getting a good response from him, even though you're doing the things that I suggested in the book.
Yeah,
right?
It's a bit better, like 5% better. And then I'm sharing this book with my mom, because we're very close, and I said, oh, maybe it can help her. So yeah, sharing the book as you know, giving her a copy, and then she's like, why? Because in the beginning of your one of the books, Surrender Wife, I think it says about becoming a coach or something.
Yeah.
And my mom is a therapist, so was before, first. And she's like, why do you want to be a coach, a relationship coach? And I'm like, thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, it sounds amazing, you know?
Yeah.
So I enrolled it was a lot of back and forth, but I enrolled in the course, and I started with a coach. I started working with a coach and working with myself, and I started implementing more of the skills. So the first one I did, I remember, was to use a spouse fulfilling prophecy that I love. We are a team with the boys, with him, like, you know. And
It's just probably before you had something like we're not a team, or what were you? Yeah,
I complained that he wasn't supporting me. That he was.
Okay, got it. So you made up a spouse fulfilling prophecy.
I love that we're a team.
I love it. We're a team. Okay, and so what happened?
Like I kept saying it like 2-3 weeks, and then I see that he's starting to support me with the kids more, like with the homework more. But still there was something missing, like something missing, and I felt that he was still very controlling towards me, and very critical towards me. Like you should, like a teacher, you should do this and this and this and this. You should be more patient with the kids. And I remember saying ouch to him, one of the skills.
Yes.
And he's like, ouch what? Ouch what? I'm just trying to teach you. I'm just trying, it's out of love. If not me, who is going to say these things to you? So I'm not understanding, it's like, so I got some more coaching, and I realized I was disrespecting him by dismissing his message.
Ah, wow.
So I started saying, I hear you. And looking within me, no, yes, he's right. I wasn't patient with my son. I was screaming at him.
Wow.
So the more accountable I was in front of him and saying, I hear you, you're right. I don't have any patience. The closer it brought us.
Wow. That's amazing. So you became so much more open to his influence as part of this process.
Yeah.
So was there a particular moment where you thought, okay, this is really working, and this
is really working, because he was like when we had that Cold War that he wasn't coming home, there was no physical intimacy. And I remember forcing him to do it. We should do this. It's what couples do.
Yes.
And but still he's like, oh, I have a headache. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, not today. And I felt so rejected. So I didn't know what to do. So I remember that when I started implementing the skills and I got the coach and I got into teacher training, he started finding me.
Wow.
And he started, maybe I'm cooking, and now it's like maybe I'm cooking or something, and he's there touching me, and I'm like, I want to cook. But I see it work. I don't remember the exact moment I saw it working. I think it was when he stood up to me in front of his family, because there was always complaint about my sons doing extra math homework, because they like it. I want to push them forward. And he's always telling me what the father is saying, what his dad is saying. Like, I shouldn't push him so hard. I should let him be a kid, enjoy his childhood, which I do. But there's still the academic stuff. And I remember the time that he said, I said to my dad, like, it's no hardship to do 10 minutes of math a day. This he's saying to his dad. I'm like, wow.
He took your side and defended you.
Side and defended me.
To your family. Wow.
To his family.
Oh, to his family.
To my in-laws. This is like, wow, we're a team.
You are a team. So your spouse fulfilling prophecy had come true.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. So what's a tip for a woman who is feeling like you did, where she's the mom and she's got 3 kids and one of them's 36 or whatever, and she's all alone. What's your tip for her about how she should, what can she start to do differently?
My tip for her would be that you're responsible for your happiness. That's the first one. Like, for me, it was like, I'm responsible for my happiness, and if I'm miserable, it's my fault. So to find ways to make me happy and to fill my time with me time. And it sounds, at the beginning, it sounds very selfish, being a mom. And I got so much bait about that at the beginning from my husband. Like, Yeah, you don't care about your kids. You're only reading. You're only doing your thing.
Bad mom.
Yes. You're a bad
There's
mom.
like nothing worse to say to a mom, right? Than you're a bad mom, basically.
Yeah.
So, and even though he was telling you were controlling, did you also feel that your husband, he was the controlling one?
Yes, I thought he was controlling. The last hard episode we had, he was controlling me about the laundry. Like, where the soap and the laundry? And I'm like, come on, it's soap and laundry.
It's just laundry. Yeah.
It's just laundry. But he was complaining about the smell and he was trying to control me. Why are you doing this? And the cleaning should be this way. And getting into my cleaning domain, my.
Yeah.
And when that happened, I try to look into myself. Like I know when my husband is controlling me, he's like my wife mirror.
Yeah.
I'm controlling him somewhere there. So I realized that I was controlling him. I wasn't using fabric softener. And he wanted me to use fabric softener. I'm like, why am I controlling this? If he wants his clothes to smell whatever, ocean breeze or whatever, why am I saying no to that? Why am I controlling him? So I remember, but before this process, I'm thinking he's never happy with anything I do. He's just going to keep on complaining and complaining. So I'm thinking about the wife mirror. I realized I was controlling him about the fabric softener. And I went and bought it and said, okay, let's see, let's try. Maybe the things I've been doing haven't been working. Maybe this works. So I did the laundry like that. And he's like, thank you so much. I love my laundry. You're the best wife and housewife ever. He was so appreciative. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm, wow. And he stopped controlling me. He stopped controlling me.
Stop controlling you. So was that an obstacle though for you at first? Because
yes,
when you think about like, oh, I'm controlling, you're controlling. Like, why should I learn to be less controlling when you're so controlling?
Why should I start first if you are more controlling than me?
Right.
But I know now that I cannot control him. Control him or tell him what to do. So if I want to change the culture in my house, I need to start by doing it myself. So once I'm not controlling him, I know he will follow. It was the same with gratitudes. I never used to get a compliment. No, thank you for anything. Nothing. Not even. I do mostly all the meals. So nothing for the meals. No, thank you for nothing. Or maybe just like, oh, thank you, like dismissing. You know?
Yeah.
And I started doing the gratitudes. I started thanking him for any things he did, but like bigger. Instead of saying just thank you, I said like one time he went and picked up my son from school, and it's always my turn. It's always me. So I said to him, "Thank you so much for picking him up. I had more free time for me, for my self-care." And he started hearing those gratitudes even more. So now he's saying those back to me. Like the other day I went grocery shopping and he said, "Thank you so much for taking such good care of your family." I'm like, what? This never used to happen. Who is this guy?
Wow. And what is your relationship like now overall?
Yeah, it's very intimate. But maybe it's not like it doesn't mean we're having physical intimacy every day. I didn't understand the difference. It means that we're connected and together. It means that even if we're in the same bed, but I'm doing my thing and he's doing his thing, I feel the connection to him. It's like a I don't know, a connection, an energy connection to him that he gets me and I respect him, and we're very close in that sense. He comes to me and tells me everything he's gonna do. I just say whatever you think, but he just tells me. And my relationship now is amazing. It's like when you say, and they lived happily ever after. It's true. It happens. It can. It's happening to me. Wow. So, and I never thought this could happen. I'm like so grateful to you. Like wow. It's amazing. It's amazing. He's always finding me in every room. He's coming to me. He's telling me, and he's even making me breakfast. He's even cleaning the house. Like now that it's quarantine and we don't have a house cleaner, he's helping me clean the house. When before it was only, you're so dirty, you don't clean the house.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So it sounds like day and night. There's no threat of divorce at your house anymore.
No, that word hasn't come up since ever.
It's been a while now.
In a while.
And there's been no begging him to stay or any of that.
No, not anymore. He's coming home now all the time, and I'm asking for some. I said I would love some solitude because we're together all the time.
You're trying to get rid of him now.
Yeah, and he gives me time. Yeah, and he gives me time. He calls me because he's at his mom, and he calls me, and I'm like, "Can I come home now?" So I would love some more time. So it's very funny.
Wow. I love that. So instead of you calling him saying, "Where are you? When are you going to come home?"
Yeah.
He calls to say, "Is it okay if I come home now?" And you say, "No, not yet. I still need some solitude."
Yeah.
So what would you say to your old self? Like if you could talk to Shani back then and knowing what you know now, what would you say?
I would say that there is a path besides divorce. And it's a different path. And it's within my power to do it. And I can create my happily ever after. I don't need to depend on anyone but myself.
And now that you've trained to become a coach and you are a coach, now you're certified as a coach. So now you help other women. You even help your family members.
Yeah.
With their marriages. In fact, you told me a really good story recently about
my sister-in-law. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me.
Well, she's pregnant, and she told me that what skills can I do now that with my pregnant brain that I forget. So I said, well, first thing, self-care for you, and the second thing is just duct tape. And she said, "Oh, great!" And I said jokingly, maybe an apology, like I apologize for being disrespectful during my pregnancy. It was a joke. Because I remember being pregnant and the hormones, and it's hard to duct tape while pregnant.
Yeah.
And she had a challenge about defending herself. And I say, like I said, I don't defend anymore with my husband. If he thinks the sky is pink, I just say, I hear you. And maybe for him, he sees it that color. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she's like, so thank you so much for walking this path before me so I can make it a smoother road. She said, I can stop defending me in front of my husband when he's telling me that the house is dirty or that the house cleaner didn't clean correctly. And I said, yeah. And she was so grateful. And
how good does it feel to know that you can have an impact on her marriage? Right?
Well, it's amazing because I want her to be as happy as I am. Well, I want any woman that comes to this coaching world to have the happily ever after I have. Because if I can have it, and all the other women before me, like it's possible. It's not out of reach.
No, but congratulations on your courage and your commitment to making your marriage magical. You did some pretty amazing things to make that happen, and very inspiring to hear the whole story, Shani. So thank you for sharing it with us today.
Thank you so much.
If you're wondering how to get started with fixing your relationship and making it shiny again, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your relationship up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes that wives make trying to fix their relationship that just make things worse when you download my free Adored Wife Roadmap. You can do that at getcherished.com. Go to getcherished.com now to get your roadmap in minutes. It's time for the worst relationship advice of the week award.
It's the worst relationship advice of the worst relationship advice. Yeah, it's the worst relationship advice of the worst relationship advice of the week.
And the advice that's got me so irritated this week is something I often hear, and it's that when a husband is behaving badly, his wife should hold him accountable. You can just imagine this steam coming out of my ears like a cartoon character. People write this to me directly. They say, you should hold men accountable for their actions and not let them have a pass. Like I never tried that. Oh, come on. Of course I did. Lots of times. To be honest, this advice often comes from someone who suggests that I delete my blogs and preferably delete myself too, because I'm promoting harmful, dangerous advice that is also wrong because I'm not holding men responsible for their actions. So I sometimes wonder exactly what that would look like for a wife to hold a sovereign adult man accountable for his behavior. I mean, how do you even do that? Would it mean that you punish him, like with the timeout? But what if he doesn't stay in his room? Then what? Would you use corporal punishment? Because spanking him as punishment, well, that's a whole different discussion, right? That's a different topic. It's not going to work. Maybe you could just give him a lecture and say that he's disappointing you, or you could keep it professional and tell him that he's not meeting your expectations and he needs to shape up. But in my experience, that never works. It can be effective at starting a fight, during which he may even behave badly some more, and you might too. So what does that get you? Maybe you could yell at him or sob or give him the silent treatment or an ultimatum. But none of those options are very dignified or pleasant, and in my experience, they can all give me a doozy of an emotional hangover. In other words, I have never found a way to hold my husband accountable. Nothing that was worth the price of admission. It cost me a lot of intimacy, and I had nothing to show for it. Really, what I hear underneath this truly terrible advice, and what I remember feeling myself, is the deep anguish of feeling powerless and hopeless and stuck, with no idea how to create a better experience. So I wanted to blame. That was my only hope, that things would improve someday. That was all I had. But it was a false hope. You might want your man to improve, to be accountable, to stop behaving badly too, but you can't make him change his behavior. You can change yourself, however, and when you do, he responds to you so much better. I remember feeling it was so unfair and hard and stupid. But as soon as I ran through the waterfall of fear to see what was on the other side, I felt liberated. I felt empowered. I felt hopeful and lighter and more pleasant. I also felt utterly and deeply loved by my husband, which was what I really wanted all along. But trying to hold my husband accountable for his bad behavior never got me there. And so for that reason, the advice that any woman should hold a grown man accountable for his bad behavior is the very worst relationship advice I've heard all week. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. Next week, I'll share how to inspire him to seek your company. I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is I just watched the musical Hamilton again, and I just love it. It is really helping me improve my rapping.